Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Live With It. I am Sarah Lane. This is the show where the DTNS family of folks and friends lives with a gadget or a service or a product over a long enough period of time where they really feel like they get a solid, honest feel about how it is to live with it. The good, the bad, sometimes the ugly. Sharing our thoughts with you as always. And joining us today is Rich Stroffolino. Hi, Rich.
Hello. Hey, Sarah. How's it going?
It's going well. Many of you know Rich from his many episodes of Daily Tech Headlines over the years. Now working over at the CISO series, and we're so glad to have you today, Rich. So, what do you got for us?
All right. So, because I do podcasting all day, I'm in that world. I had to do a podcasting gadget, so I'm recording on it now, so I cannot use it. But I have the Zoom LiveTrak L6 right here. So I have the box for it because we're never allowed to throw out any boxes ever again, I guess.
No, always keep the box.
Always keep the box. And basically this is, a lot of people know Zoom. A lot of people know Zoom from like the H4n, like the little field recorders and stuff like that. This is kind of a supersized version of this, right? So it is a 10-channel mixer. It can be an audio interface, so it can bring in analog instruments digitally into your computer. It can hook up over USB, and it's also an all-in-one recorder, all kind of put together in the size of about what you would have for a typical audio interface. So it's very compact, which is like a major thing for me. I don't have a lot of desk space. And so, that was kind of one of the things that first drew me to looking at it.
Now, before we talk about, what you're going to pay for something like this, somebody might say to themselves, well, I don't need 10 channel inputs, or I'm not a musician. So, how does this work for you based on, all the stuff that you do day to day? Yeah,
and that is a really good point, because that is a lot of, it looks like a lot of channels. Believe me, if you talk to audio people, you can burn through channels super quick. But up until then, I had been using a more typical audio interface. This is like a Tascam one, and this has just two
and people really like the Tascam.
Yeah, it's a really great unit, but it only has two inputs. So this was great for, I could have my mic hooked up to there, it can go to my computer, and I could have like an iPad to use as a soundboard or something like that. And it even has little sound pads here. It's kind of a little junior guy, but again, very compact, and I really like that. What changed for me is I started, I'm a middle-aged guy now. Let's just face it here. I started dabbling around with synths and drum machines and music creation. I got a little pocket operator. Cool. This was kind of my entry point into this. And these are great, but I quickly found that I wanted to, again, I have an H4n. I have a portable recorder. I was using that for an audio interface for a hot minute. Not the best thing in the world to use that for. But you're limited to 2 channels. So it's like, if I want to control the volume of these two things from one place, it ended up being like a big pain in the butt. I tried out little, this is like a little passive mixer. It's like $20 or something like this, like a white label, no name thing. And these are horrible because you're like clipping the gain all the time. And it's really not, you're sharing the gain. Like it doesn't really have real channels.
An audiophile didn't make this.
No, this was made by AI somewhere, and then it was substantiated somehow. I don't know the details.
You're experimenting with some music stuff. You obviously podcast a lot. What have you used before this?
So when I wanted to kind of marry those two worlds, have a full-time, mic interface, and then be able to do some line and stuff, my first instinct headed down to the Goodwill and got myself a Samson mix pad, which is a big honking guy. There's a bunch of these from every company makes these around. They're around.
Yeah, I have a Yamaha that's very similar.
Yeah, and they're great. I mean, this has like some metal parts. It has sliders, so you can feel like back in WRUW, and it's really great. Lots of customizability, one knob per function, which is very big with some people. I know. You can do a lot of sophisticated routing with this, which is kind of a big deal. But it's huge, and I have a tiny 4x2 desk. I don't have a lot of space. I work out of my bedroom, so I don't have a ton of space to expand it. And it just wasn't just wasn't working out in terms of space wise. I was constantly bunking it, and I had to move it every time I wasn't using it, and then I couldn't move it if I wanted to record something on a dining room table. Like, it was this whole big thing. It had a big power brick, so it just wasn't. It was a lot of quality of life inconveniences.
Now, let me ask you this, because the problem with my Yamaha, which is in the closet behind me, so I don't have it to show you right now, but Great Mixer does not record discrete audio, though. And that's very, very important if you're in person and you're doing, if you're doing a podcast, it's like you guys have to have discrete channels. You have to.
Yes, and I know Amos will back me up here on this. The big problem with a lot of these mixers are you can have 12 channels in, it's always going to do 2 out. It's always stereo out. So you lose a lot of flexibility when, even if it's over USB, you're really only getting stereo out. So a lot of that flexibility of, I'm recording all this stuff. Well, you're kind of baking in, especially when it comes to like music production. Sometimes it sounds good in your headphones, then you're trying to master it or something like that. I barely know what I'm doing there, by the way. But you don't have that flexibility. It's a pain in the butt. So it would, having something with a recorder that can do each track as its own recording was definitely something that was appealing to me.
All right, so we're talking about the Zoom LiveTrak L6. We haven't talked about the price yet. What does it cost?
So it is $329 new, or at least that's what it's going for. It might MSRP somewhere different. I know they just came out with like the L6 Plus or the L8 or something like that, so maybe you could score a deal on it. It is certainly not cheap, but when you look at the world of dedicated recorders like an H4n or an H6, that is very much within Zoom's price range. And when you want to talk about like digital mixers, $329 is a bargain when you're coming for that. Even like the Behringer ones that are like full-fledged digital mixers can get crazy expensive. And so kind of having a combo of these two, admittedly with a very pared down feature set, was, I thought it was a pretty fair price.
Now, I always talk about things like this with friends who are, kind of audiophiles. For example, I use Logic Pro for my podcasting. Do I need to use Logic Pro, which is really meant for musicians, and I don't use it in that way at all? No, I don't. I could use GarageBand. I could use Audition. I could use all sorts of other things. But I just kind of like the interface. So, going back to kind of the hardware interface and how you use it on your computer, how do you like this more than other options?
For me, the size of it, and it doesn't have knob per function, so there is a lot of, it's not menu diving per se, but it's like to adjust like the panning. You have to press a button, and then the same encoder that's for gain is going to be for your pan, or for your effects, or for your aux sends and stuff like that. Each pad has a different function to it, so panning, effects, gain or audio level and stuff like that. So when you press that, each encoder then kind of resets, and then you're able to set it from there. That being said, as far as compromises go for that, it is, I don't think it's unreasonable. And it's very often, once I get a lot of those settings locked in, I'm really not changing them all that much. And really, usually it's just level that I'm kind of toying with. And that's always front and center default for this. So in that kind of sense, it's really not too bad. Again, it's a little bit of a compromise. You definitely do get a little more, I didn't want to call it ease of use, but ergonomically, maybe. It's just an easier.
That's ease of use. We all like things to be easy to use.
But what I like so much more about this is that it has seamless power delivery over USB and battery. So right now I have it plugged into my computer. I'm using it as an audio interface here. But if I were to unplug it and I was recording something, let's say I had a bunch of line and stuff, it like the seamless power delivery, the recording wouldn't stop. And that's really nice. And that's definitely saved my bacon a couple of times when recording some sick beats.
Have you sick beats? Have you used this on the road much?
I have taken it. Mostly, it's just like around the house is where the
on the road
is maybe another use.
Once you unplug, you're on the road.
I've taken it with some friends. I recently took it with me on a trip to Houston, just in case me and a friend wanted to do either some podcasting stuff or even kind of jam out a little bit. And it's super tiny. Again, it's the size of like a regular interface, or I don't know, like one of those long boxes of tissues. It's about that size, maybe a little shorter water even.
What you talking about? Kleenex? Long box of tissues.
Long
Okay.
box of
yeah.
tissues.
All right.
Not
Yeah. I know
the
what
square
that
box,
looks like.
the long box.
Yeah. Got it.
Or like a compact loaf of bread, maybe something like that.
No, I mean, all kidding aside, that is compact. It is.
Yes.
You still got to pack it somewhere, but that feels way more travelable than a lot of the other options that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and it's just nice that, yes, it can sit on my desk. It doesn't take up a ton of space. I can hide it under like my laptop stand, and it just kind of goes away. And then when I want to move it around, it makes it extraordinarily simple to do so. So that, to me, was one of the major differentiators compared to everything else. The only other way to do that is just to get another like Zoom recorder, a field recorder, or something like that. And generally speaking, the ergonomics on those are the ones that have like multiple line in or XLR inputs. Those are just kind of, I don't know, they look very janky, and they're meant to be taken out into the field and set down. They're not necessarily meant to sit on a desk. So I actually like that this is desk mountable. It's actually Eurorack mountable. I can't afford Eurorack. I'm not at that level of synth dad yet. But whenever I have a spare 5 figures, I can throw it in a Eurorack and use it as a recorder there too. So that's kind of cool.
So we've talked about all the ways that you've been kind of just hanging out with the Zoom, the LiveTrak L6, using it in different scenarios. You probably have some pros and some cons. So let's talk about what you think is best about it now.
Best about it is flexibility, right? Just in general, like I've hammered on the size a whole bunch. I've hammered on the power delivery, but that is like a lot of flexibility that makes it very easy. One of my other favorite things is it does USB audio back and forth. So right now my audio is going through USB to my computer, but it can also, if I'm playing something on my computer, can go through there into the recorder. So that is super nice. It does take up a channel to do that, and I'll get into that with the cons a little bit. Overall audio quality is really great on the two main XLR, like the two main inputs. It does do something called 32-bit float recording, which basically means, for lack of a better term, you can't really clip it. If you get too loud, you can always just turn it down. It's kind of like a raw file in photography or something like that. And again, that's a feature that usually you don't get on less expensive gear here. I know $329 is not inexpensive, but that's a nice feature to have. I don't know that I've used it all that much. I don't try and blow out the gain too much. I'm sure Roger's appreciating that, but yeah, that's and the other, like, there's a bunch of little things, like it has effects on it. The effects on this, again, I'll go into that on the cons, but just I don't know. It's like just enough on everything. The pro is like it's just enough on everything that I need it to do. And I'm not paying for more things that I'm not using.
You've mentioned some cons. So let's talk about what isn't great about this.
So the biggest thing, and I knew this going in, I knew this was going to be a con that I was just going to have to deal with. But so when you're dealing with a mixer, there are things called aux sends or effect sends and aux returns. And essentially what that means is with an aux send, I can say, hey, the audio from this channel, send it out over a 1/4-inch cable to another place. It doesn't know where it is, but I can send it and I can set a level for that. That's really cool if have an instrument and I want to send it to a separate like effects box or something like that. However, this has the sends. It doesn't have any dedicated returns. A lot, like my Samson mixer has dedicated return channels that you could send that audio back through. Because it doesn't have that, I then have to use some of the 10 channels that are on here as the returns. So all of a sudden I can go very quickly from, if I have, let's say, two effect, I have like a reverb and an echo or something like that on different pedals or something, and I want to send that back. All of a sudden I could be using 2 to 4, depending on if they're mono or stereo, of my 10 channels. That's 40% of your channels gone just to effects. So I knew that going in, and you just have to kind of account for it. I don't use a lot of stereo effects. I can't afford them. So it's not that big of an issue for me, but that's definitely a con, just in terms of, like, I knew that going in. A lot of the, like, it has some built-in effects, like a hall reverb. Here's how I sound with the awesome spring reverb effect going.
Ooh.
Sure, yeah. That sounds cool. No,
you're in a big empty theater.
They're like C-grade effects, if I'm going to be quite honest. And the other major thing is it has a built-in compressor, but the compressor is on off. There's literally no other settings on the compressor. You can't do anything through the software.
Oh,
or anything
really?
Like that. Yeah. So it's just like, do you want to be louder? Press compressor button. Do you want to not be louder? Turn off. Because
I feel like the compressor setting is like one of the, the most sort of precious ones.
Yes.
You want to get it exactly right. But again, I'm talking software. So in a hardware setting, maybe it's just on or off.
And that's where a lot of times I'll be sending stuff out to a compressor. They want to return it. Oh, I'm using up more channels. So there are little things. And also Zoom as a software maker leaves something to be desired. You can tweak a couple of settings here, but it's ugly and I don't know. It's always like yelling at you about stuff. The web
what do you
interface.
mean it's yelling at you?
To transfer your files off of here, you can't just go into the app, or it just doesn't connect as like a USB device. You have to go into like transfer mode to transfer your audio out here. It's not an SD card.
I see.
But it's a micro SD card. Kind of a pain.
It's not like Rich.
Yeah.
Do it different.
But it's just like you're not
cumbersome.
using it right. Yeah, it's just a little clunky and ugly. And I wish there were it has a dedicated, or it has like a 4-pad sound pad on here. Like it doesn't have like an auto fade. Like so when I press it, it's very limited settings with that too. Like I wish it was a little bit more full featured in the software. I know it can do it. It's just Zoom software maker, maybe not the best. I don't know. All of those things would be gravy for the most part. And other than like the software not being the best, I knew kind of heads up going in. Cons, but ones that I kind of already implicitly accepted when I bought this.
What would other prospective buyers need to know about before getting this? I mean, you are an audio pro. I mean, and I would say the same for myself. It's like we do this all day, every day. We, there are things that go wrong. We figure out what works for us. For somebody who is just kind of like off the street, is this the right thing for me? What do you think?
I think if you are just getting into doing a podcast, maybe it's you and a friend or something like that, this is honestly overkill. I will say having the ability to record at the press of a button, like the recording on this is top notch. It is Zoom. They do know how to make a recorder. So like just pressing the record button and all the channels are recording all the time. That's great. That has saved my bacon so many times to have that instant backup for anything that I'm on. Also potentially weird privacy violation, so don't be a creeper with it. But the level of inputs here is like if you're just doing a podcast, maybe you're not even doing, whether professionally or not. I don't think you would need it. I think it's a really great travel mixer if you are someone that is a fellow synth parent and wants to have something like this. It is an excellent travel mixer. You may outgrow it depending on the complexity of your setup. But in terms of like audio quality, I've been more than happy with the quality of the preamps on all of these, the quality of the recordings, the flexibility that it gives you. The way it actually interfaces with Mac OS is really nice. It's fully supported in audio hijacks. So you can do all the fancy routing you want as a attached to your computer as well, which is really nice. So from that perspective, it is a little bit of a, I don't want to say it's a Swiss Army knife because it does do some things extraordinarily well as opposed to a bunch of things just okay. I think for a lot of use cases, it's probably either overkill or you're going to outgrow it very quickly.
I think for a lot of people, what they're doing is what you're doing for the most part at home. You're in a smaller space, you got a smaller desk, you want something that works well, doesn't take up a lot of room, and is just kind of plug and play. And it sounds like this is working out for you.
It is. I have had virtually no real complaints with it, other than occasionally. The only other con, I guess I would go with this, is the way it does USB is you have to dedicate one of the channels to be your USB return from your computer. So to hear, like if I had my headphones on as opposed to my AirPods on right now, I would need to dedicate a channel to that return, which is good because you can control the level and all that stuff. Every once in a while, certain VoIP apps, like StreamYard doesn't have a problem with it, but I know Restream, for example, it will like double up the audio and I don't know why. Luckily, I can go into loopback and change the settings, so it only, I can just change how it does that. But there seems to be no rhyme or reason to what apps it does that with and what apps it doesn't. So if you didn't know that might be a point of frustration, other than that, a pretty happy camper.
Well, Rich Stroffolino, I am so glad that you were here to talk very candidly about the Zoom LiveTrak L6. For anybody out there who's like, this is interesting, I have more questions, do send it our way, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, because we always like to do, some updates depending on what resonates with our audience. But in the meantime, Rich, where can people find out more about what you're up to these days?
You can find a lot of my stuff over at the CISO series, CISOseries.com. You can listen to cybersecurity headlines. That is my main show I'm on. I'm also on a show called Security You Should Know. And we're going to be launching a new show called The Department of Know. That's KNOW, coming up on October 27th. So that's a Monday. So come and join us for a nice live stream to kick off your week in cybersecurity.
Oh, excellent. I also work on the CISO series here and there. So Rich and I work together over there. Great team, very smart group of people. Encourage everybody to check it out. But for now, that is it for this episode of Live With It. Thank you again to Rich Stroffolino for being with us today. If you enjoy Live With It, please remember we can only do shows like ours with your continued support for us on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/DTNS to learn more. I'm Sarah Lane, and we'll see you next time on Live With It.